that's interesting. Oh, hi. I was just reading this fascinating document. It's the annual budget for the Colony Lake Homeowners Association. Here, let me share it with you. Yeah, I know. Just looking at this thing makes your eyes glaze over. But unfortunately, the budget and related financial documents are actually pretty important. Ask yourself these questions. Why are some of our community's amenities, like the tennis courts, so run down? Can we afford to build new amenities that some in the community may want? Will the paint be peeling off of the siding of your duplex when you put it on the market to sell? The answers to these and other questions can be found in our HOA's financial statements. So to me anyway, it seems worthwhile to take a closer look at this budget document, what it does and does not tell us about our community. And I'm sure you agree. So buckle up, ladies and gentlemen. It's about to get really interesting. Yeah. So this document is called a budget. Our board of directors prepares one of these every year and then presents it to us at the annual meeting. This one is from 2022, but they're all pretty much the same. A budget is just a plan. It describes what the board intends to do over the next year with the money that it collects. Because it explains how every penny will be used, and by extension, why every penny is needed, the budget justifies the assessment levels that the board has set for the upcoming year. Different organizations present their budgets in different formats and layouts. So let's look at how our board presents its budget. First, scanning from top to bottom, we can see that each row in the upper section represents one source of income, and each row in the lower section represents one expense or one way that that income will be used. We'll talk more about this later. Okay, the next thing to notice about this budget is that it covers 2 consecutive years. The budget for the upcoming year is shown on the right. The budget for the prior year is shown on the left. By comparing entries in these 2 columns, you can get an idea for why the assessments may have gone up. And they always go up, they never go down. For example, the increase in the cost for the grounds contract from over $27,000 to over $34,000 certainly helps to explain why the assessments have increased from 2021 to 2022. There are 2 additional columns on this particular budget. Those columns represent, on a per household basis, how much of your monthly assessment is going to pay for each expense category. For instance, each member will be contributing $11.10 a month towards the grounds contract in the upcoming year. It's notable in our community that we have 3 different lot types: townhouses, duplexes, and single-family homes. Not all lot types pay equally into each of the expense categories. For example, only the townhomes pay towards the townhouse gutter cleaning. And that's why assessments of the different lot types vary from one another. Now, for the remainder of this video, I'm going to focus solely on the budget for the upcoming year. As mentioned before, the rows in the budget can be broken down into 2 separate sections. The first section at the top is called income. It's the cash that the board expects to receive over the next year. The cash comes primarily from assessments, but a little bit is expected to come from late fees and interest earned on a savings account that's maintained by the HOA. The second, larger section at the bottom is called expenses. It shows how the board plans to use the income that has been collected. Expenses include money that will be spent over the next year and also money that will be set aside in reserves to be spent in future years. An interesting fact about a budget like this is that the total income exactly matches the total expenses. That means that every penny of income is accounted for. The large expenses section can be further subdivided into two parts. The upper part is called the operating fund. It includes expenses that occur regularly throughout the year. This includes things like paying monthly landscaping bills, paying monthly insurance premiums, etc. Operating funds are typically kept in a checking account maintained by the HOA. The lower part of the expenses section is called the reserve fund. The reserve fund is used for things that are expensive and that occur infrequently. Every year, the board deposits money into reserve funds so that there is enough money available in the future when it is needed for specific projects. For instance, our budget shows an entry for townhouse roofs. Over the next year and continuing in future years, $50,000 or so of assessments from townhouses will be put into that reserve fund. As a result, in 20 or 30 years, when the roofs on the townhouses need to be replaced, enough money will be available to do it. For HOAs, reserve funds are usually kept in an interest-bearing savings account. HOAs often don't have physically separate savings accounts for each reserve fund category. Instead, all of the money is placed into a single pooled reserved saving account, and the amounts of money intended for different reserve categories are tracked on paper or with software. So there you have it. That's a budget. It tells you what the board is planning to do with the money that it will receive over the next year. And it also serves to justify the size of the assessments being charged to members. But the budget only tells you how much money the board thinks it's going to receive over the next year and what they plan to do with it. Having only the budget leaves lots of gaps in our understanding of our HOA's financial position. For example, the budget doesn't tell you how much income the HOA actually had in the previous year. And more importantly, it doesn't tell you what the board actually did with the money. For instance, the board may have planned to spend $34,000 on the grounds contract, but may have ended up spending $38,000 because the landscaping company raised its rates. This is called a variance. While a variance in the grounds contract may not be a big issue, a variance in deposits into one or more reserves might be a cause of great concern, because underfunding a reserve means that critical repairs, replacements, and long-term maintenance may be delayed. But you wouldn't know that this had happened if you only looked at the budget. Having what are called actuals, which show how much income was actually received and how much money was actually spent on each expense category, would help members know whether the board is actually fulfilling the commitments it has made in the budget. The budget also doesn't tell you how much money is in the reserve funds and how far away we are from fully funding them. The budget only says how much money is supposed to be deposited into the reserves over the next year. For instance, the budget says that $10,000 will be deposited in the next year into the reserve for the tennis court. But how much is in the fund already? How much more is needed to fully fund it? And when will it be needed? The budget offers no answers to these questions. The budget also doesn't tell you if any money has been taken out of the reserve funds or what it was used for. Going back to the tennis court reserve again, the budget says that $10,000 will be put into the tennis court reserve over the next year, but it doesn't tell you whether any of the money in that reserve has been taken out or used for something else, which might delay repairs to the tennis court. As a little aside, you should know that the budget is the sole financial statement that our bylaws require the board to present to members annually. As we've established, though, by itself, the budget really isn't sufficient to understand the complete financial position of our HOA. So I'm left wondering, why is it that our board provides only the barest of bare minimums about our HOA's finances at the annual meeting? Wouldn't it be better to be completely transparent and to provide members with a full accounting of our financial picture? Anyway, yeah, okay, that was really dry. So, reward yourself. Go take a walk around our community. While you're out, take a look at some of our prime amenities. Take a look at the new playground. It's really nice. But did you know that we have 2 playgrounds? Walk over to the second playground that's in the green space behind St. Andrew's Lane. It's really sad. You wouldn't want your kids to play there. Now, walk over to the tennis courts on St. Ayres Way. Don't just look at it from the street. Go inside. Again, pretty sad. People who play tennis there say that the one remaining court is okay for hitting balls around, but if you really want to play a game of tennis, you need to get in your car and drive over to one of the public courts in town. And seriously, ask yourself, do you think a real estate agent would show this tennis court or the second playground to potential buyers as an incentive to move here? Why are these amenities so shabby? I'm sure that if the money were available, they would be in great shape. So why don't we have the money? Well, we might have a better idea if we had a fuller understanding of our HOA's financial position. So, we'll be talking more about this in future issues of the Colony Lake Tattler. In the meantime, go outside, check things out, and be happy. Bye for now.